Lesson assignment. Lesson 6. Death and dying. After paragraph 6.1 through 6.4, identifying type, typical reaction of healthcare personnel toward terminally ill or injured patient, identifying stage of adjustment experienced by the terminally ill, injured patient, his or significant others, identifying characteristics of each stage of adjustment experienced with a terminally ill patient with significant others, identifying management techniques used to help the terminally ill and their significant others coping with death and dying, identifying nothing to do with the medical entity of helping soldiers cope with the death and dying of a combat environment. Lesson 6. Death and Dying. Introduction. Just as being born in a natural process, dying is a natural process. Death is inevitable no matter how we may want to prove long life. Many people avoid the discussion of death because it isn't so anxiety-provoking a subject. A subject reminds us how human weakness, despite all technical advances, death is the last human experience, a fact that makes it difficult to help those with the terminally ill as the medical specialist you may be faced with frequently with the reality with another person's death. This experience can be very painful and stressful. The only the nature of the field of the death of the personal concern will intensify whenever you are in contact with someone who is dying. Reaction to the healthcare personnel or the terminal ill and the other injured patients. To work effectively with a dying patient, you may recognize and understand that individuals need feeling tension and discomfort. Coming in terms with yourself with the greater assets, the denial. Some of the persons may tend to deny reality of the death and try to avoid the patient who are terminally ill. Death is seen as a failure because it cannot be prevented. Some of the personnel may even tune off the terminal ill patients by maintaining an objective professional approach. Common inappropriate action respond with the terminal ill patients who wish to talk about death. The medical specialist should avoid following reassuring that everything will be alright. Denial, you're not going to die. Fatalism, you will have to die sometime. Changing the subject, let's think of something else to talk about. An appropriate action respond with the terminal ill person. Get gentle discussion, beware of how to talk with the patient. Exploration of feelings. All the patients have the time and the opportunity to ventilate his feelings. Active listening, be attentive to the patient talks. A physiological response with the dying process. Research has done with interviewing terminal ill patients and their family to gain the information psychological response with the dying process. The conclusion of the research of the 5 basic stages of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. The patient may or may not follow these stages of the fixed pattern with that stop with regardless regrets, but even progress beyond the first stage. If the family members are present, usually pass through the some of the stages of the patient, not necessarily at the same time. Denial, patient reacts. The patient may seek opinion of the other physicians or request repeat of certain tests. See, but the test would belong to someone else. Their action usually characterized no, not me. It can't be true, but there's more. There must be some mistake. Healthcare provided with a medical specialist. Listen, do not contradict the patient. Reinforce prescribed medication diet routine as prescribed by the physician. Prescribe the patient listens to the deny impending death. Anger, patient reaction. The patient may replay with the denial questions. Feel anger with the range of the resentment. Envy with the blame of the complaint with fine fall with explaining extremely critical care of the care he is receiving. These actions may be characterized by why me, why should it be happening to me, whatever I have done to observe this punishment. Healthcare provided with a medical specialist, have the patient's intelligence, acknowledge the patient, understand how he feels, allow the patient to correct the anger and other feelings, reflect with the patient needs to rage against his fate, but do not take with the act personally. Bargaining, patient reaction at the stage of the quite shortly, intermediate, not even apparently. The patient may have the bargain to postpone death, the secret reward, good behavior, the exchange place with someone else, replace with the previous question, why me, yes to, it is to me, but if you will just let me live, I will never say an unkind word to anyone and never lose my temper or etc. The stage has been done privately. Healthcare provided with a medical specialist, understand the bargaining helpful to the patient, keeping the patient comfortable, listen to be available. Depression, patient reaction that may be anxious, put affairs in order, sense of the great loss in income base, business, hair, limb, function, life. If having feeling sadness, guilt over the having provided for over this family makes a will and updates a will. Healthcare provided with a medical specialist allow the patient mourning, crying. They talk about the loss of the possible help of the patient, care for the putting affairs in order, provide emotional support. Accept the patient reaction of the patient if the prepared to die, present peace at this time, may withdraw for all except all special loved one. Patient wants to be left alone, have someone sit near him, but in silence, family often uses being more supportive than the patient at the time is when it was too late. In so many words, it's all the time when relatives cry hardest for the help without words. Healthcare provided the medical treatment facility with the respect of the patient, the need of the quietness and of the reassurance of the being there as such as possible. If the patient is unresponsive with the undisclosed, the patient is in the room hearing the less sense of the cease of the function. If the patient does not want to talk, but communicate non-verbally to indicate a sense of caring or concern. Keep the patient as comfortable as possible. Maintain emotional support for the family. Medical specialists can get a great help during those final moments for the understanding of the final conflicts of the time and the helping stuff. Like the person who is most comfortable staying with the patient. Those who feel the uncomfortable can return with the knowing that the patient will not die alone with no guilt, avoiding the moment of the death. 6.4. Coping with the death and dying with a combat environment that healthcare provided with medical special include the following: makeup of the casualty controls, probable possibility to find someone who can consider the soldier, hopefully a buddy from this unit, often take care of the unfurnished business to notify his family if possible. Buddy would deceive the regards for the casualty by the time when it was death can provide feedback to include what and when and where the soldier is died, but incur the casualty to cover the feelings of grief. If it's possible to make the time of the brief short with some of the short, however simple the expression of the grief that survivors is important to prevent both combat psychological problems of those of the 12 of the bodies killed within the action, many of the mental health professionals now treating Vietnam veterans and the post-traumatic stress disorder feel that too often soldiers didn't allow themselves to grieve for their buddies at time or soon after the of their buddies' death still haunts their veterans today. That was lesson 6. Lesson 7, sexual assault.